Welcome back to Boomer's Playground, and today we're going to be going over logical operators. So there are four logical operators. There's the pipe, or it's considered the OR statement. There's the and, which is and. There's one exclamation, which is not. And there's two question marks that are nullish coalescing, and we'll dive into what all those here do. Here we cover the first three. The nullish coalescing is in the next article. They're called logical. They can be applied to values of any type, not only Booleans. So the result can also be of any type. So let's see some details. So the OR operator is represented with two vertical lines or pipes. In classic programming, the logical OR is meant to manipulate Boolean values only. If any of the arguments are true, it returns true. Otherwise, it returns false. The JavaScript operator is a little bit trickier, but it's more powerful. So with Booleans, it's pretty straightforward. It's just, is either one of these true? So we're just going to pretend this one's A, that one's B every single time. It's saying if A is true or if B is true. So they're both true, so at least one of them is, so we get a truthy value. False or true, again, at least one of them is true, so we get a truthy value. True or false, again, because one of them is true, we still get a truthy value. And I think they just did this to show that it doesn't really matter which one comes first with an OR operator, because it's just checking, hey, is one of these things truthy? And then false, neither one of these is true, so we do get false back. As we can see with the results, the true ones, blah, blah, blah. So this is an example of a non-Boolean value one. So for instance, the number 1 is treated as true, and the number 0 is treated as false. Now again, because it's the number 0 and not a string of 0, that's why 0 is considered false. But again, because we have a truthy value here, this equates to true. And it shows right here, it's the same thing as if you were saying true or false. Most of the times the OR is used in an if statement to test if any of the given conditions is true. So for example, the hour is 9. We want to see, is the hour less than 10 or is the hour greater than 18? So we're looking for either one of those to be true. In this case, 9 is less than 10. So we do get a truthy value. And so that if block will run. So again, in that if statement, it's literally doing 9 greater than 18. So if either one of those things is true, it will end up doing this block of the if statement. And you can, I'm sure there's probably limits at some point, but you can chain as many of these up as you'd like. And so like here, we have 3 things that we're checking. So again, we're checking the same, well, it's a different number now. But so for instance, so now it's just checking this, which 12 is not lower than 10. 12 is not greater than 8. But then we're also checking this is weekend variable right here, which is a true value. So we're really just checking true. And so even though these first 2 are false, we have this third one, which is true. So this code will run in here because this will end up being a truthy conditional check. OR finds the first truthy value. So if any of these are truthy, it doesn't check the rest. So in this instance up here, we checked every single one because when 12 was here, like we have down here, that's false. That's false. Oh, cool, we have a true one. Now, if we would have done the is weekend at the beginning, it would check the first time and it would be like, okay, true. And then it doesn't even care about the rest. Operator does the following: evaluates the operands from left to right. For each one, it converts it to a Boolean. If the result is true, it stops and returns the original value of that operand. If all operands have been evaluated, i.e. all were false, it returns the last operand, and then a value is returned to in its original form without the conversion. So in other words, a chain of or returns the first truthy value or the last one if no value is found. This is an interesting thing to know, but you usually don't end up using it. Like, you'll use these or operators kind of in these conditions. You're probably not going to be returning anything from it, so probably less important, but still a good thing to know. So here 1 or 0, remember 1 is truthy, 0 is false, so we get 1, and then you'll see in this alert here we get the value of 1. We don't actually get like true. So it converts it to booleans. So if we do boolean 1, we get true. So that's a truthy statement, so it returns that operand, which is the number 1, which is why we would get 1 in the alert here. Alert here, we have null or 1. Again, it's going to turn these into Boolean values. The null will be false, and the 1 will be true. And so again, we'll get, it's a truthy value, so it will return that 1. Here, we have null, which is false. We have 0, which is false. And then we have 1, which is true again. So this will return the 1. And then here, we have undefined, which is false, null, which is false, and 0, which is false. So they're all false, but it's just showing that it returns the last one if no truthy value is found. This leads to some interesting usage compared to a pure classical Boolean or. Getting the first truthy value from a list of variables or expressions. For instance, we have first name, last name, and nickname, all optional. Let's use our or to choose the one that has the data and show it, or anonymous if nothing. So we have these 3 values. And so, again, we're going to check in here. So what it's really doing is it's just doing that, or that, or that, or anonymous. So that's actually what it's doing once we put these variables in there. So if you guys remember from the Boolean or the type conversion section, an empty string is a falsy value. So you'll see we get false. Okay, so we don't do anything with that. We do the same thing with last name, which again is an empty string, so this will be false. Nickname is supercoder, so this is a string that has something in it, which means it's a truthy value. So you'll see here, supercoder, we get true, and it's just because there's anything in this string. It's just not an empty string, so it's truthy. So this is an interesting thing to show because, you know, you check all these things, and then, you know, if we don't have anything, we'll use this last thing. So that's kind of a cool little trick that you can do. Just put whatever you kind of want to return at the end. But again, you traditionally wouldn't use these for that, or at least I haven't used them for that. So we can short circuit evaluation. So it means that the OR processes its arguments until the first truthy value is reached, and then the value is returned immediately without even touching the other arguments. The importance of this feature becomes obvious if an operand isn't just a value but an expression with a side effect, such as a variable assignment or a function call. So in the example below, only the second message is printed because this is a true, so it just says, oh, we found a truthy value, screw it, I don't care about the rest of this. And then with the falsy value here, we're like, okay, well, let's keep checking to see if we have anything that's true. So that's just showing those. Yeah, that's just showing that, like, yeah, we can short circuit whatever. Sometimes people use these features to execute commands. Yeah, I mainly see them in like if statements, but it's kind of a cool little thing. And then we have the AND operator, which has the 2 ampersands. So for this one, all sides need to be true for this to be a truthy value, because you're saying something and something. So true and true is going to be true because they're both true. False and true is going to be false because only one of these two things was true. Same with the next one. Even though true is first, it doesn't short circuit like the OR. It still checks every single one. So again, we only have one true value, truthy value, so we get false. And then false and false is also false because there's no true values in here. So here, same thing, 12 will get put in here. So is 12 equal to 12? Well, this is true. And 30 will be put into here. Does 30 equal 30? So we have a truthy value, a truthy value. So this will be true, and this code block will run. Just as with OR, any value is allowed as an operand of the AND. So you can use numbers, strings, whatever. So here, 1 and 0, remember 1 is true, 0 is false. So since they're not both truthy, this will not evaluate, and this code will never run because that's false. So we can do, oh yeah. If 1 and 0, yes, else. And I'm only putting this else in there just so you can see that we aren't running the initial one. So you see we get no, because again, 1 is truthy, 0 is falsy. So the AND operator finds the first falsy value. Oh, so I guess maybe it does short circuit it. Given multiple ANDed values, the operator does the following. It goes from left to right. For each one, for each operand, it converts it to a Boolean. If the result is false, it stops and returns the original value of that operand. If all the operands have been evaluated, they were all truthy, it returns the last one. So it's doing the exact same thing as the OR operator. It's just looking for a falsy value instead of a truthy value. So here's some more examples. 1 and 0, it's going to return 0 because this is true. This is false. All right. So we have some more examples down here. Sorry, there's going to be a little bit of a cut in there. I'm trying to get a new apartment, and the person called me, so I had to take that. So here it's just showing us more stuff. So 1 is a true value, because again, remember this converts them to Boolean. And then 0 is a false value, so it's going to return 0. So we would see 0 in the alert. 1 and 5. 1 is a truthy value, as is 5. The only number that's not true is 0. So any other number or any other negative number is also considered a truthy value. So this would be true and true, and it returns the last one that it found, or the last one since they were all true. If the first operand is falsy, the AND returns it. The second operator is ignored. So like I said earlier, I didn't think it did that, but I was wrong. It's just like the OR operator. It's just looking for falsy values instead of truthy values. So remember in the ORs, the first truthy value means that the whole condition is true, and it just returns that and it doesn't care about the rest. This is the exact same, just looking for false values instead of true ones. So null is false, so it just cuts off and returns null. And then here we have 0 and no matter what. Again, 0 is falsy, even though this is a true value. This no matter what is a string, so it's a true value. And then just like with the ORs, you can chain a bunch of these. Obviously, you want to be, again, code readability is important, so you don't want to have 15 of these in an if statement, but if you can tag 2 or 3 or 4 on, that's kind of fine. I think 3 and 4 is kind of when you get to the point where okay, there's probably a better way to handle this, and once we get into the functions for JavaScript, you'll see different ways that we can do it. So here, 1, is that true? Yes. Okay. 2, is that true? Yes. Okay, let's keep going. Null, is that true? No. So it cuts off, it returns null, and we never even check this last AND operator there. And then again, when all the values are true, the last one's done. So again, just like the ORs, except it's just looking for the false instead of the true. Precedence of AND is higher than the OR. So if you mix and match them, the AND will get run first, I think. So in this code, yeah, so what we're actually doing is, you can think of it like this. Where is it at? Oh yeah, I was actually just going to do this right here. So the ands run first, so A and B, is that true? Is that true? And then if it is, this becomes true. And then down here, we'd run these, so we would figure out what these two were, and then we would compare those values with this OR operator. And so it's just showing if you like wrap it in parens. Don't replace if with the or the and. Sometimes people use the and operator as a shorter way to write if. I wouldn't do that. It's, again, it's readability, and it's, I mean, there's not really a lot of benefit to it. The action in the right part of the and would execute only if the evaluation reaches it. That is, only if x is greater than 0, if that is true. So we basically have an analog for if x is going to do this thing, and so they're pretty much just saying, you know, some people try and shortcut that. I wouldn't do it. The Boolean not operator is represented by just a single exclamation point or sign. It's pretty simple. It just reverses whatever the thing was. So the operator accepts a single argument and does the following. It converts the operand to a Boolean type, true or false, and then it returns the inverse of that. So in here, you know, Boolean of true is going to be true, and then we negate it, which turns it to false. And then the opposite, the Boolean of 0 is false, but then we negate it, and it converts it to true. So it just flip-flops it. Sometimes you'll see the double not is used to convert a value to a Boolean type. So this is kind of like, oh, yep, so cool. So here you're converting it to a Boolean type by using this first one, and then it's negating that, and then you're negating it again, so you're just leaving it at its original Boolean type. So it's the same as doing this right here, and that's going to be the same here as well. So this gets this won't be the case for every single company, but this just gets you or the like your linter, like the linter at work. If I do something like this, it will automatically add these to make sure that we're using a true Boolean type. The first not converts the value to the Boolean and returns the inverse, and then the second not inverses it again back to what it originally was, so kind of what I already said. The precedence of not is the highest of all the logical operators, so it always executes first, even before the ands or the ors. All right, so let's check these tasks out. So what's the result of or? What is the code below going to output? All right, so remember, or checks for if there's ever a truthy value, it just cuts off and it returns that. So here we have alert, so we have null. Okay, that's false, so let's check the next one too. This is going to be true because remember, every number except for 0 is a true value, even negatives. So we're just going to cut off here, and it's going to return 2, and we're not even going to check this third one. So the answer is true because, again, it's the first truthy value. What's the result of the ORed alerts? Okay, so alert 1, or 2, or alert 3. So I'm guessing this is a truthy value, so I think it's just going to alert 1, and we're not going to do the rest of this. But that's it. I'm honestly not sure. Let's find it. I guess we could just look at the solution button, but sometimes it's good to just play around with stuff like this in the console. Okay, so it is the first one. So that is a true. Oh, interesting. And so that's a great example of why I like playing around with it. So you'll see this first alert was truthy, so we alerted. Or no. Oh, so that's not a truthy value. Oh, interesting. Okay, interesting. So because it's an alert, it just automatically did the alert. And then when we click next, it jumped to the next one, which is 2, which is a true value. So it just cuts off, it returns true. and we're good. So we get this first alert one, which is going to be from this jobber right here. Then we're going to do OK, and then it actually does the 2 from this outside alert. That's kind of interesting. The call to alert does not return a value. Oh, it returns undefined since there's no value to be returned. So the first OR evaluates its left-hand operator, which is undefined, which is a falsy value, but it's still an alert, so it still ran it. Oh, that's kind of interesting. Yeah, this is one of those weird things, like, this is great to show like how it's working, but it's just not something you're going to see in like live code very often, if at all. So what's the result of the AND? So again, remember with ANDs, we're looking for falsy values, not truthy ones. So first one, 1 is a true Boolean value. Null is a false, so we're going to cut off, and we're not going to check this pass part, and null is going to be returned. And then here, oh, this will be, okay, so alert returns undefined, which is a falsy value. So where we're at. Yeah, so right here. So I think this is going to run. It's going to alert us the 1 because it's just the alert. But then it's going to be a falsy value. So I think it's just going to return undefined for this outer alert. The answer 1 and then undefined. Okay. Yeah, so we have this outside alert and then we have the 2 alerts inside. So because it's a little alert, it just does its thing. But it returns undefined since it's not returning any real value. That's the default return for things. So like when you see, so like example, when you see in here, if you don't specifically return something, which we'll see when we get into functions, the browser just handles it and sends back undefined. So the result of or and. So remember, the ands have precedence. So what we're really seeing here is 2 and 3 or 4. All right. So the first thing that happens is this happens first. So that's going to be true because 2 is a true value and 3 is a true value. But then it's going to come back here and it's going to run null, which doesn't have nothing, that's false, so we don't care. And then we have this true, so true will be run and the rest of this should be ignored. So let's see if that's how it actually works. Oh, interesting. Okay, so that's kind of cool. So this ran first, and since it was a true value, and since the ORs are just looking for the first true value, that gets returned. Which is, okay, so this is, okay, so the precedence of the AND is higher, so it executes first. So the result of 2 and 3 is going to be 3, because remember, if you have an and all those values are true, it just returns the last one. So 2 is true, 3 is true, so we returned 3. This is true. Nothing else gets checked. And it's only because we have this and that the null didn't get run first. It's kind of cool. Write an if condition to check that the age is between 14 and 90 inclusively. Inclusively means that the ages can be at either end. So here we would just do if, we'll pretend we have an age. So we'll do if age. So if you want to do inclusively, there's 2 things you can do. You can do greater than one number below the bottom, so 13, and age is less than one more than the top range. So the reason we're doing it this way is because we're just checking greater than or smaller than. We're not checking, so if we were to do greater than 14, if you put 14, this would be false, which is not what we're trying to accomplish here. So most people are going to do it this way though, where you'll just use the actual numbers, and then all you do is you just add the equals sign to whatever the thing is. So we're checking So here we're checking, is the age greater than or equal to 14, and is the age less than or equal to 90. That way we're including 14 and 90 in there. So yep, and you'll see. I think this is a cleaner way than the first one I showed. I just wanted to show the first one just because. And then it's going to be, we're going to do the opposite of it. So really all you got to do, the age is not between 14 and 90 inclusively. All right. So create two variants, the first one using not, the second one without. All right, so the first one, so here we could just do, you pretty much just switch the greater than less than's around. And then that will give us the same thing to make sure that they're either 90 or older or 14 or younger. And then to use the not operator, all right. So if age is not if the age is not less than, I don't think that's even a thing. Let's actually see what they do. Oh, that's dumb. Okay, so they're just showing you how to use this not operator again. They're checking to see if you are inside of the age range. So if you're inside of 14 to 90, this will be true. And then we just negate it to be false because we now know that you're in here. Or if this is false, we'll negate it to true. I don't like that, but I do think they're just showing to show. Which of the alerts are going to execute? So if -1 or 0, so again, remember every number except for 0 is true. So even this negative number, which you might think like, oh, that's a falsy. No, this is a truthy value. So if true, and again, remember, or looks for the first true, it's going to alert first. Here, this isn't going to alert anything because, again, it's the opposite. They both need to be true. So this one is true, but 0 is false. So that's going to return false. So this alert will never run. And then, again, we're doing the ors and the ands. And so from this other one we did up here, same idea because of the way that they were done. -1 and 1 is going to be a truthy value. And so that's going to return true, which is then going to make this whole thing true. And we're going to get alert third. So we should see first and third. We should never see second. The first and the third will execute. Yep. So and those are for the reasons I was just describing. Okay. So we're going to check the login. So write the code which asks for a login with prompt. If the visitor enters admin, then prompt for a password. If the input is an empty line or escape, show canceled. If it's another string, then show I don't know you. All right, so here's what we're going to do. So we're going to have a prompt. All right, prompt login. And we're going to set this equal to user, I guess. And then down here, so if user, and again, I'm going to do this thing like I did earlier. And actually, we can do it up here. I'm just going to do 2 lowercase, which it's not asking me to, but I'm just going to do it anyways. This is like, because we probably shouldn't care. If they can free type in, we shouldn't care about casing. Now for the password we will, but for the like user or your level, I don't, like if they do a lowercase a here, that shouldn't break our code. And without doing this to lowercase, it would. All right. So if you do admin, all right. Prompt for a password. So let's do prompt what is your password? And then again, we'll, I'm actually going to do const here. All right, so then we're going to get the password. And then, so we're going to check if it's the master, but this time we do want to keep the uppercase and lowercase different because it's a password, right? So that's going to be super specific. So we want to make sure, so we can do if, and actually I'm going to do password equals the master. We'll do our little ternary condition down here. We are going to prompt welcome. Else we'll do prompt wrong password. And actually it's probably not prompt, we probably want to do alert. And we'll do else if user equals an empty string. I think it's, crap, I can't remember now. So let's check out what, I think we just get false if we do prompt. Oh, because I accidentally have a semicolon in there, I think. Oh no, what? Oh, you guys are probably yelling at me saying, you stupid idiot, you typed it wrong. All right, so A is just null. Okay, cool. So what we can do, oh, sorry guys. So what we can do here is, yeah, we could just do if not user. So if the user is an empty string, that's false. If we hit escape, we get null, which is also false. And anything else will be a truthy value. So this part wouldn't run. So here we could do alert canceled. All right, so we prompt for login. If they type in admin, and we did do to lowercase, we're gonna prompt for a password, and then we're gonna check the password. If it does match this perfectly, we're gonna alert welcome. If it doesn't, we're gonna alert wrong password. If the username isn't admin, but it is a falsy value, and remember, this prompt is returning a string. So even if we put 0 in here, it would be the string of 0, which is technically a truthy value. And so it would come down here and it would say, oh, true. And then we would negate it, which would be false. So this would never run. So when we get an empty string, it comes in here, user is false. We negate it to true, this runs. If we get null from hitting escape or cancel, user is null, which is false. We invert it, turns it to true, and we alert canceled. So, and I have a syntax error somewhere. I wonder if it's the two. I wonder if I can't do to lowercase like that. Probably because, so I think the reason here is user doesn't have a value when we run the code, so we can't to lowercase something that doesn't exist. So I'll just do, we'll just do it here. And then we don't care about it down here because if it's an empty string, we can't really make that smaller or lowercase. And if it's null, we can't to lowercase null anyways. All right, so there's still something wrong here, but let's do, we'll do admin, and then we'll do the master, and we got welcome, perfect. So let's try it again, and, sorry guys. I want to get rid of that so we can redo it. All right, so let's do admin, and then we'll just do password. We got wrong password, perfect. So let's do not admin, we'll just do boomer. And you'll see we didn't get anything because boomer's not equal to admin, and then boomer is also a truthy value, so this returns to false. So that works as expected. So let's do a single quote. Oh, interesting. Okay, so I don't know if you see what happened there, guys. Because I put an empty string in there, it's an empty string inside a string. So you'll see we have the 2 double quotes and then we have the 2 single quotes inside there. All right, so if we enter nothing, we get canceled, so that's good. If we escape, no, we can't 2 lowercase it. Oh, interesting. Okay. So in here, we're trying to 2 lowercase null. Okay, so that's pretty interesting. So I honestly think we did a pretty decent job as is, but one thing we could do is, let's just go here and let's just do if user. So if user is a truthy value, then we can take this. And then the reason I'm doing this is because we want a 2 lowercase, but we only want a 2 lowercase if it's a truthy value. So we're just checking, hey, is this true? And then I guess we can just do if it's true. All right. So let's do that. And so if user's a falsy, okay, so actually, yeah, this should actually work. Alert canceled. Okay, so this should work. So we're getting the user prompt. We're checking to make sure user is a truthy value. Excuse me, guys. So if you type anything into the prompt, it will be a truthy value. The only way we get falsy values is if we put nothing in there or if we hit escape. And so that's why this else statement should work now. All right, so that went canceled. I hit escape, that worked. I hit cancel, that worked as well. All right, so let's go over this one more quick time. All right, so we're getting a prompt for user. Now remember, prompt returns a string. So as long as something is typed in there, it's a truthy value. So we're checking that first because like that error you saw, you can't do, you can't do .2 lowercase on something that's not a string, and null is not a string. And null is what we get when you hit cancel or escape with the prompt. So if we get here, we know there's something in there. We 2 lowercase it. We see if they did admin, because again, I don't think we should need it to be a capital A admin. If it is that, we ask them for their password. We do not 2 lowercase this because a password is going to be case sensitive. So then we're doing a ternary operator here where we check, does the password match this exactly? So if they did a capital or a lowercase t or lowercase m, this would not be true. We then alert welcome if this condition is true. If this condition is not true, we send them this. And if user's a falsy value, which it will only be if we don't type into the prompt, or if we hit escape and cancel, we do this else and we do alert concealed, or canceled. So let's see, what did they do? All right, so username, they check if username is admin. So if this is what you ended up doing, this is totally acceptable. The 2 lowercase thing is kind of, it's kind of me. Oh, and it looks like, oh, I guess I didn't read it completely good. Okay, well, there's some extra checks in here. Go over it, read it, make sure it makes sense to you. Sorry about that. Make sure all this makes sense to you. with anything in programming, there's 100 different ways to do the same thing. So if you didn't do it how I did it, you didn't do it wrong, you just did it different. That's all there is to it. So that's it. This was a pretty long one. You will use these or and operators all over the place in your code. They're super convenient. So yeah, so make sure you understood this. Like I said, this was a little longer one, so if you need to, go back and rewatch it. If you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, share them in the comment section below. Otherwise, like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys in the next one.